From an uncredited extra at a party to an Oscar-winning icon, Brad Pitt has spent nearly 4 decades transforming himself on screen. He's been a vampire, a boxer, a spy, a zombie hunter, and the most stylish con man in Las Vegas. This is the complete filmography of one of cinema's most magnetic stars, every role, every transformation, from 1987 to today. In No Way Out, a 1987 political thriller starring Kevin Costner, a young Brad Pitt appeared briefly as an uncredited party guest in one of his earliest film roles. Hunk was a low-budget 1987 comedy where Pitt made a blink-and-you-miss-it appearance as an uncredited boy at the beach. Pitt landed a small recurring role as Chris on the long-running soap opera Another World in 1987, one of his first professional television credits. In No Man's Land, a 1987 crime thriller about undercover cops and stolen cars, Pitt played an uncredited waiter in a brief early appearance. Less Than Zero adapted Bret Easton Ellis's novel about wealthy Los Angeles youth spiraling into drugs, with Pitt appearing uncredited as a partygoer. Pitt guest starred as Jeff on an episode of the hit sitcom Growing Pains in 1987, part of his early hustle through television guest spots. On the iconic soap opera Dallas, Pitt played Randy across 4 episodes in 1987, gaining valuable screen time on one of America's biggest shows. Pitt made a guest appearance on the short-lived 1988 sitcom Trial and Error, another stepping stone in his early television career. In a 1988 episode of 21 Jump Street, Pitt played a character named Peter alongside Johnny Depp, years before both would become major stars. A Stoning in Fulham County was a 1988 TV movie about religious violence in rural America, with Pitt in a small role as Teddy Johnson. The Dark Side of the Sun gave Pitt one of his first leading roles in 1988, playing Rick, a young man with a rare skin condition, filmed in Yugoslavia. Pitt appeared in a 1989 episode of Head of the Class, the ABC sitcom about gifted high school students, continuing his television guest star circuit. On Freddy's Nightmares, the horror anthology series spun off from Nightmare on Elm Street, Pitt played a character named Rick in a 1989 episode. Pitt returned to Growing Pains in 1989, this time playing a different character named Jonathan Keith, showcasing his growing range as a young actor. Cutting Class was a 1989 slasher film set in a high school, with Pitt playing Dwight Ingalls in one of his first notable supporting roles. In Happy Together, a 1989 college comedy, Pitt played Brian in a supporting role that gave him more screen time to develop his craft. Pitt appeared as Bernard on a 1989 episode of 30-something, the acclaimed drama series about baby boomer anxieties in suburban Philadelphia. The Image was a 1990 TV movie about media ethics starring Albert Finney, with Pitt in a small role as a character named Steve Black. Too Young to Die was a 1990 TV movie tackling juvenile justice, with Pitt playing Billy Canton opposite a young Juliette Lewis. Glory Days was a short-lived 1990 TV series where Pitt starred as Walker Lovejoy across 6 episodes, one of his first series regular roles. In Across the Tracks, a 1991 drama about 2 brothers from different worlds, Pitt played Joe Maloney, a troubled teen trying to turn his life around through track and field. Ridley Scott's Thelma and Louise became a cultural milestone in 1991, a road movie about 2 women breaking free from their suffocating lives. Brad Pitt appeared as J.D., a charming hitchhiker and small-time thief who seduces Geena Davis's character in a motel room scene that became instantly iconic. It was a small role, but it put Pitt on the map overnight and launched one of Hollywood's most enduring careers. Johnny Suede was a quirky 1991 indie film where Pitt starred as the title character, a pompadour-sporting aspiring musician navigating downtown New York. Contact was a 1992 television film where Pitt played Cox, a supporting role in this lesser-known early entry in his filmography. In Two-Fisted Tales, a 1992 anthology film produced by Horror Legends, Pitt starred in the segment King of the Road, playing a character named Billy. Cool World was Ralph Bakshi's ambitious 1992 blend of live-action and animation, with Pitt playing Detective Frank Harris navigating a dangerous cartoon dimension. Pitt appeared in a 1992 episode of Tales from the Crypt, the popular HBO horror anthology, playing a character named Billy. Robert Redford's A River Runs Through It is a lyrical 1992 drama about fly fishing and family in Montana, with Pitt delivering a breakout performance as the reckless, golden-hearted Paul McLean. In California, a 1993 road thriller, Pitt completely transformed himself into Early Grace, a terrifying serial killer, in one of his earliest chameleon-like performances. Tony Scott's True Romance was a Tarantino-scripted crime classic where Pitt had a memorable cameo as Floyd, a perpetually stoned roommate glued to his couch. The Favor was a 1994 romantic comedy where Pitt played Elliot Fowler, a charming love interest in this light-hearted ensemble piece. Neil Jordan's Interview with the Vampire brought Anne Rice's beloved Gothic novel to the screen in 1994. Pitt played Louis de Pointe du Lac, a grief-stricken plantation owner turned reluctant vampire, opposite Tom Cruise's flamboyant Lestat. Despite initial fan backlash over the casting, the film grossed over $200 million worldwide and proved Pitt could hold his own against any co-star. Edward Zwick's Legends of the Fall was a sweeping 1994 epic set in Montana, with Pitt starring as Tristan Ludlow, a wild and passionate frontiersman whose story spans decades. David Fincher's Say Seven and plunged audiences into a rain-soaked, nightmarish city where a serial killer stages murders based on the 7 deadly sins. Pitt brought raw intensity to Detective David Mills, an impulsive young cop partnered with Morgan Freeman's weathered veteran. The film's gut-punch ending remains one of the most talked-about conclusions in thriller history, and it cemented the Fincher-Pitt partnership. Terry Gilliam's 12 Monkeys is a mind-bending time-travel thriller set in a dystopian future ravaged by a man-made virus. Pitt delivered a wildly unhinged performance as Jeffrey Goins, a manic mental patient with a dangerous secret. The role earned him a Golden Globe and his first Academy Award nomination, proving he was far more than just a pretty face. Barry Levinson's Sleepers was a 1996 crime drama about childhood trauma and revenge, with Pitt playing Michael Sullivan, one of 4 friends seeking justice years later. In The Devil's Own, a 1997 thriller, Pitt starred opposite Harrison Ford as Rory Devaney, an IRA operative hiding in New York with a sympathetic cop's family. 7 Years in Tibet followed the true story of Austrian mountaineer Heinrich Harrer, played by Pitt, who befriends the young Dalai Lama in 1997. Pitt made uncredited cameo appearances on Saturday Night Live in 1998, popping up in sketches with his trademark charisma. In Meet Joe Black, a 1998 romantic fantasy, Pitt played Death Incarnate who takes human form to experience life and falls unexpectedly in love. David Fincher's Fight Club arrived in 1999 and detonated like a cultural bomb. Pitt embodied Tyler Durden, the charismatic anarchist alter ego who preaches anti-consumerism through bare-knuckle brawling and soap-making. He sculpted his physique and his persona into something magnetic and dangerous. Initially a box office disappointment, the film became a generation-defining cult classic. In Spike Jonze's surreal 1999 comedy Being John Malkovich, Pitt made an uncredited cameo as himself in a brief but memorable appearance. Guy Ritchie's Snatch is a hyperkinetic crime comedy about diamond heists, bare-knuckle boxing, and a cast of eccentric London criminals. Pitt stole the entire film as Mickey O'Neill, an Irish traveler boxer whose thick, nearly incomprehensible accent became a running joke. He trained extensively for the boxing scenes and improvised much of Mickey's unintelligible dialogue, delivering one of his most purely entertaining performances. The Mexican was a 2001 action comedy where Pitt played Jerry Welbach, a hapless man sent to retrieve a cursed antique pistol in Mexico. Tony Scott's Spy Game was a 2001 thriller spanning decades of CIA intrigue, with Pitt playing Tom Bishop, a young operative whose mentor must race to save him. Pitt made a memorable guest appearance on the Thanksgiving episode of Friends in 2001, playing Will Colbert, a former classmate with a grudge against Rachel. Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11 redefined the heist movie for a new generation with style, humor, and an all-star ensemble. Pitt played Rusty Ryan, Danny Ocean's right-hand man, a cool operator perpetually snacking on something in every scene. The effortless chemistry between Pitt and George Clooney anchored the film, which grossed over $450 million and launched a beloved franchise. Pitt popped up on 2 episodes of Jackass in 2002, joining Johnny Knoxville's crew for some characteristically outrageous stunts. In Steven Soderbergh's experimental 2002 film Full Frontal, Pitt appeared briefly as himself in this unconventional Hollywood satire. George Clooney's directorial debut Confessions of a Dangerous Mind featured Pitt in a cameo as Bachelor Brad, a contestant on the show within the film. Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas was a 2003 animated adventure where Pitt voiced the legendary sailor in DreamWorks' swashbuckling fantasy. Pitt lent his voice to King of the Hill in 2003, playing Patch Boomhauer, the brother of the famously mumbling Boomhauer. Sinbad and the Cyclops Island was a short companion piece where Pitt reprised his voice role as the adventurous sailor from the animated feature. Pitt appeared as a guest on Late Night with Conan O'Brien in 2004, promoting his work during one of his busiest periods in Hollywood. Wolfgang Petersen's Troy brought Homer's Iliad to life as a massive sword and sandal epic in 2004. Pitt transformed himself into Achilles, the greatest warrior of the ancient world, performing many of his own stunts and fight choreography. Despite mixed critical reception, the film earned nearly $500 million worldwide and showcased Pitt's physical commitment to a role. Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 12 reunited the gang for an even more stylish European caper in 2004. Pitt returned as Rusty Ryan, navigating a rivalry with a legendary thief played by Catherine Zeta-Jones while the crew pulls off increasingly elaborate cons across the continent. The sequel embraced a looser, more playful tone that divided audiences but delighted fans of the original. Doug Liman's Mr. and Mrs. Smith paired Pitt with Angelina Jolie as married assassins who discover they've been hired to kill each other. Pitt brought sharp comedic timing and action star physicality to John Smith, turning domestic bickering into explosive gunfights. The film grossed nearly $500 million, and the on-screen chemistry famously spilled into real life. Alejandro González Iñárritu's Babel wove together four interconnected stories across three continents, with Pitt playing Richard Jones, an American tourist caught in a crisis in Morocco. Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 13 brought the crew back to Las Vegas for one final score in 2007. Pitt's Rusty Ryan anchored the ensemble once again as the team plots revenge against a ruthless casino owner played by Al Pacino. The trilogy Closer delivered satisfying heist thrills and proved that this franchise had perfected the art of the cool caper movie. Andrew Dominik's The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford is a slow-burning, elegiac Western masterpiece. Pitt portrayed the legendary outlaw Jesse James as a paranoid, charismatic figure haunted by his own mythology, delivering one of his most nuanced and layered performances. Though it underperformed commercially, the film has been widely reassessed as one of the finest westerns of the 21st century. The Coen brothers' Burn After Reading is a pitch-black comedy about a CIA analyst's memoir falling into the wrong hands. Pitt played Chad Feldheimer, a dim-witted gym employee who stumbles into espionage with hilariously misplaced confidence and a perpetual grin. His willingness to play the fool with total commitment made Chad one of the film's most memorable and quotable characters. David Fincher's The Curious Case of Benjamin Button tells the extraordinary story of a man who ages in reverse, born old and growing younger. Pitt anchored this sweeping, decade-spanning love story with quiet grace, spending hours in transformative prosthetic makeup and motion capture technology. The film earned 13 Academy Award nominations and showcased Pitt's ability to carry an epic, emotionally complex narrative. Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Bastard rewrote World War II history with gleeful audacity in 2009. Pitt commanded the screen as Lieutenant Aldo Raine, a Tennessee moonshiner leading a squad of Jewish American soldiers on a Nazi scalping mission behind enemy lines. His exaggerated southern drawl and deadpan delivery of Tarantino's razor-sharp dialogue made Raine an instantly iconic character. Pitt appeared on Real Time with Bill Maher in 2009, discussing politics and social issues during the promotional tour for Inglourious Bastard. Beyond All Boundaries was a 2009 immersive documentary experience about World War II at the National World War II Museum, with Pitt voicing Sergeant Bill Mauldin. In DreamWorks' animated comedy Megamind, Pitt voiced Metro Man, a Superman-like superhero who fakes his own death to pursue a life of music in 2010. Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life is a transcendent meditation on memory, grace, and the origins of existence itself. Pitt delivered a deeply personal performance as Mr. O'Brien, a strict 1950s father whose authoritarian love shapes his son's understanding of the world. The film won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, and Pitt's restrained, emotionally complex work stands among his finest. Bennett Miller's Moneyball chronicles Oakland Athletics general manager Billy Beane's revolutionary use of statistics to build a competitive baseball team. Pitt brought warmth, humor, and vulnerability to Beane, a former failed prospect who channels his frustration into changing the game forever. The performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor and proved he could anchor a smart, dialogue-driven drama. Happy Feet 2 was the 2011 animated sequel where Pitt voiced Will, a tiny krill with big existential questions, alongside Matt Damon. Andrew Dominik's Killing Them Softly was a 2012 crime thriller where Pitt starred as Jackie Cogan, a professional enforcer hired to restore order after a mob card game robbery. Mark Forster's World War Z thrust Pitt into a global zombie apocalypse as Jerry Lane, a former United Nations investigator racing to find the source of a pandemic. Pitt produced the film and navigated a famously troubled production that included massive reshoots and a completely rewritten third act. Despite the chaos, it became the highest-grossing zombie film of all time at over $500 million. Steve McQueen's 12 Years a Slave was a harrowing 2013 masterpiece about slavery, with Pitt appearing as Samuel Bass, the Canadian carpenter who helps free Solomon Northup. Ridley Scott's The Counselor was a 2013 crime thriller written by Cormac McCarthy, with Pitt playing Westray, a smooth-talking middleman in a dangerous drug deal. David Ayer's Fury was a brutal 2014 World War II film where Pitt starred as War Daddy, a hardened tank commander leading his crew through the final days of the war in Germany. By the Sea was a 2015 drama directed by Angelina Jolie, with Pitt co-starring as Roland, a blocked writer whose marriage unravels during a seaside vacation in France. Adam McKay's The Big Short turned the 2008 financial crisis into a darkly funny, fourth-wall-breaking ensemble piece. Pitt played Ben Rickert, a reclusive ex-banker who helps two young traders bet against the housing market while reminding them of the human cost. It was a restrained, grounding performance in a film full of flashy turns, and the movie won the Academy Award for Best Adapted Screenplay. Robert Zemeckis' Allied was a 2016 wartime romance where Pitt played Max Veyton, an intelligence officer who falls in love with a French resistance fighter played by Marion Cotillard. War Machine was a 2017 Netflix satire where Pitt starred as General Glenn McMahon, a thinly veiled portrait of a real-life military commander in Afghanistan. Pitt made recurring appearances on The Jim Jeffries Show in 2017, playing the show's weatherman in a series of deadpan comedy segments. In Deadpool 2, Pitt made a blink-and-you-miss-it cameo as the Vanisher, an invisible mutant who was only seen for a split second during an electrocution scene. Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a love letter to 1969 Los Angeles, blending real history with Golden Age fantasy. Pitt was magnetic as Cliff Booth, a laid-back stuntman and war veteran living in the shadow of Leonardo DiCaprio's fading TV star. The role earned Pitt his first acting Oscar, a long-overdue Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor that capped decades of iconic work. Pitt appeared on The Ellen DeGeneres Show in 2019, charming audiences while promoting Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. James Gray's Ad Astra sent Pitt to the outer reaches of the solar system in 2019 as Roy McBride, an astronaut searching for his missing father while confronting deep emotional isolation. Pitt appeared as a weatherman on John Krasinski's feel-good web series Some Good News in 2020, delivering a lighthearted forecast during the pandemic. Pitt opened Saturday Night Live in April 2020 with a memorable impression of Dr. Anthony Fauci during the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. In The Lost City, a 2022 adventure comedy, Pitt had a scene-stealing extended cameo as Jack Traynor, a rugged CIA operative who meets an unexpectedly hilarious fate. David Leitch's Bullet Train is a high-octane action comedy set aboard a Japanese high-speed train packed with assassins. Pitt played Ladybug, a reluctant hitman trying to embrace pacifism while chaos erupts around him in every car. His effortless comedic timing and physical agility prove that approaching 60, Pitt remains one of Hollywood's most watchable action stars. Damien Chazelle's Babylon is a sprawling, debauched epic chronicling Hollywood's chaotic transition from silent films to talkies. Pitt portrayed Jack Conrad, a larger-than-life silent-era movie star watching his world crumble as the industry evolves beyond him. It was a bold, melancholic performance in one of the most ambitious and divisive films of 2022. John Watts' Wolves paired Pitt with George Clooney once again in 2024 as rival fixers forced to work together on a chaotic night in New York. Joseph Kosinski's F1 is an upcoming 2025 racing drama where Pitt plays Sonny Hayes, a veteran driver returning to Formula One for one last shot at glory. From those first uncredited walk-ons to Academy Award glory, Brad Pitt's filmography is a masterclass in reinvention. Nearly 4 decades, over 90 roles, and the journey is far from over. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit subscribe and leave a like and let us know your favorite Brad Pitt performance in the comments.